The forest was a graveyard of shadows, the kind of place where even the wind feared to whisper. Towering pines clawed at the sky, their branches like skeletal fingers, and the air hung thick with the scent of damp earth and iron. Beneath the swollen glow of the blood moon, something stirred, something primal. His name was Kale, though the beast that prowled these woods knew him only by the low, thunderous growl that rolled from his chest. A werewolf, massive and untamed, his fur the color of storm clouds, his eyes burning like molten gold. He moved through the underbrush like a living nightmare, muscles coiling beneath his skin, every step a promise of violence. He was alpha, and the night belonged to him. Then, her scent hit him. It was wrong, intoxicating. Not prey, not fear, but something colder, sweeter like frost on roses. His hackles rose, his lips peeling back from jagged teeth. A vampire. She stood in the clearing like a ghost spun from moonlight, her skin pale as winter's first snow, her lips the dark red of a fresh wound. Her hair cascaded in silken waves, black as the void between stars, and her eyes, God's her eyes, were pools of liquid silver, ancient and knowing. She shouldn't have been there. She shouldn't have been alive. Yet she was, and she was smiling. Lost, little wolf? Her voice was a blade wrapped in velvet, slicing through the silence. Kale's snarl deepened, his claws sinking into the earth. She was dangerous. He knew it in his bones, in the way his blood roared like a wildfire in his veins. But instead of fear, something darker, hungrier, twisted inside him. He took a step forward, then another. She didn't flinch, didn't run. The wind howled between them, carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken things. Her gaze locked onto his, unflinching, and for a heartbeat, just one, the world narrowed to the space between their breaths. Then the snap of a twig, the rustle of leaves. Another werewolf emerged from the trees, larger, darker, his presence like a storm given flesh. Riven, Kale's brother in blood, his rival in power. His golden eyes flicked to the vampire, then back to Kale, a challenge burning in their depths. The vampire tilted her head, her smile sharpening. "Oh," she murmured, "this just got interesting." The night held its breath, and then chaos. The air shattered. Kale lunged first, a blur of fur and fury, his claws slashing toward the vampire's throat. She moved faster, unnaturally fast, her body dissolving in a mist an instant before his strike could land. Then she was behind him, her fingers brushing the nape of his neck, cold as a grave's kiss. He snarled, spinning, but she was already gone again, reappearing atop a gnarled oak branch, her laughter like shards of ice falling onto stone. Predictable, she mused, tilting her head. All strength, no subtlety. Riven didn't hesitate. He barreled forward, his massive form crashing into the tree, sending it splintering to the ground in a thunderous crack. But the vampire wasn't there. She stood now between them, her back turned to Riven, her silver eyes locked on Kale. Adare, a taunt. Something inside Kale twisted. This wasn't just a hunt. This was a game, one she was playing with them both. The scent of her filled his lungs, wild and sweet and raw. It made his blood burn, his pulse a drumbeat of war in his veins. He should have torn her apart, should have silenced that mocking smile forever. But the longer he stared, the more the fury in his chest coiled into something else, something darker, hungrier. She took a step closer. Riven growled, low and warning, but Kale didn't move. Couldn't. The vampire reached out, her fingers hovering just above Kale's muzzle, her nails sharp as bone. "You feel it, don't you?" she whispered. The pull, the hunger, not just for blood, but for something worse. His breath came ragged. She was right, and he hated her for it. A howl ripped through the night, distant, but closing in. The pack. They'd caught the scent of prey, of intruders. The vampire's smile didn't waver, but her eyes flickered toward the sound. Just for a second, Kale struck. His teeth grazed her wrist before she vanished, his jaws snapping empty air. When she reappeared a few paces away, a thin line of crimson welled on her pale skin. She stared at it, then at him, her expression unreadable. "Clever wolf," she murmured. The howls grew louder, closer. Riven tensed, his muscles coiled for battle. But the vampire only sighed, as if bored. "Another time, then," she said, her voice fading as her form dissolved into shadows. And just like that, she was gone. The forest fell silent. The blood moon watched, indifferent, as Kale stood there, his chest heaving, her scent still clinging to him like a curse. Riven's growl was a question, a warning. Kale didn't answer. He just turned his face to the wind and inhaled deep and slow. She would be back, and next time, he wouldn't let her leave. 3 nights passed. 3 nights of restless prowling, of snapping at shadows, of dreams that burned like fever. Kale should have forgotten her, should have let the hunt fade into memory like all the others. But the scent of frost and blood clung to him, a ghost in his fur, a whisper in his skull. It made him reckless. It made him furious. Riven watched him with narrowed eyes, silent but knowing. The pack sensed it too, the tension in their alpha's muscles, the way his gaze kept drifting to the treeline, searching. They gave him space. Even the boldest among them knew better than to challenge him now. Then, on the 4th night, the wind shifted. Kale went still. His nostrils flared. There, beneath the damp earth and pine, beneath the musk of his own kind, her, faint but unmistakable, a trail. He didn't hesitate. He ran. Branches whipped past him, the forest blurring into streaks of black and silver. The scent grew stronger, curling around him like smoke, pulling him deeper into the woods where the trees grew twisted and ancient. He should have been wary, should have suspected a trap, but the hunger in his gut drowned out reason. Then he burst into a clearing, and there she was, waiting. The vampire stood at the center of a circle of dead grass, the moonlight painting her in shades of bone and ink. This time, she wasn't smiling. This time, her silver eyes held no mockery, only a quiet, terrible intensity. "You followed," she said, her voice softer than before, almost pleased. Kale's growl was answer enough. He took a step forward, then another, his claws digging into the earth. The air between them crackled, thick with something unsaid. She didn't vanish, didn't taunt him. She just watched as he closed the distance, her chest rising and falling in a slow, deliberate rhythm, as if she, too, was holding her breath. When he was close enough to feel the chill of her skin, she lifted a hand, not to strike, not to flee, but to hover just above his muzzle, her fingers trembling ever so slightly. "Do you even know what you're chasing, Wolf?" His breath came hot and ragged. He didn't care. A twig snapped behind him. Riven, the larger werewolf, emerged from the trees, his golden eyes locked on the vampire, his body coiled for violence. The air turned sharp, electric. A standoff. The vampire's lips curved just slightly. "2 wolves," she murmured. "How lucky I am." Kale bared his teeth, but not at her. At Riven. A warning. A claim. The silence stretched, taut as a bowstring. Then, with a sound like rustling silk, the vampire stepped back, her form beginning to dissolve into the night. "Until next time," she whispered, and then she was gone, leaving only her scent and the echo of her words hanging in the air. Kale didn't move, didn't look at Riven. The hunt wasn't over. It had only just begun. Riven's golden eyes burned with something unreadable. Then, with a last, lingering look at the vampire, he turned and vanished into the trees. The silence that followed was heavier than before. The vampire tilted her head. "You sent him away," she said. "Foolish." Kale finally turned to face her fully. His chest rose and fell with each ragged breath. He didn't know why he'd done it. Didn't care. All that mattered was the way her gaze dropped his claws, then back up, slow, deliberate. "Or maybe," she whispered, "you just wanted me to yourself." The wind howled through the branches above, scattering dead leaves between them. Kale took a step forward. This time, she didn't disappear. The space between them vanished. Kale moved first, not to strike, not to kill, but to cage her against the gnarled oak behind her. His massive frame blocked escape, his breath hot against her cold skin. She didn't flinch, didn't bare her fangs, just watched him with those liquid silver eyes, her pulse a silent, frozen thing beneath her pale throat. "No growls this time?" she murmured. "No snapping jaws?" His answer was a rumble deep in his chest, more vibration than sound. Her scent filled his lungs, dizzying, maddening. He wanted to hate it, wanted to tear into her just to watch that mocking smile bleed away. But the hunger twisting inside him wasn't for violence. Her hand lifted, slow, deliberate, until her fingertips hovered just above his muzzle. "You don't even know what you want," she whispered. He did. He just didn't have the words for it. A twig snapped in the underbrush. Too close. Kale's ears flattened, his focus snapping toward the sound. and she struck. Not to hurt him, not to flee. Her cold fingers tangled in the thick fur at his neck, yanking his face back to hers with impossible strength. Their foreheads nearly touched. Her breath was frost against his teeth. "Look at me," she demanded low and sharp. "Only me." The forest faded. The sounds, the scents, the distant call of the pack. None of it mattered. There was only her. The way her nails pricked his skin. The way her lips curled. Not in a smile, but in something fiercer. Something hungrier. Kale's claws sank into the tree behind her, splintering bark. He should have torn free. Should have reminded her which of them was the predator here. Instead, he leaned in. Her breath hitched. Just once. The only sign she wasn't as in control as she pretended. Then the howl came. Closer this time. Urgent. The pack had caught Riven's trail. They'd be here soon. The vampire's grip loosened. Her gaze flicked past Kale's shoulder toward the sound. For the first time, something like hesitation flickered across her face. Kale snarled. He didn't care about the pack, didn't care about anything but the way her attention had wavered. He shoved forward, pinning her harder against the tree, his growl vibrating against her collarbone. "Look at me." She did. And this time, when her lips parted, it wasn't to taunt him. The howls grew louder, closer. She exhaled, long and slow, then slid her hand from his fur to his jaw, her touch lighter than snowfall. "Next time," she said, "we won't be interrupted." Then the shadows swallowed her whole. Kale stood alone, the tree groaning where his claws still dug into the wood, the ghost of her touch burning like frostbite on his skin. The pack burst into the clearing, Riven at their lead. Kale didn't turn, didn't explain, just stared at the empty space where she'd been, his blood roaring in his ears. Next time, he wouldn't let her slip away. Next time, he'd be the one to decide when this ended. The pack surrounded him, their scents thick with confusion and unease. Riven stood closest, his golden eyes burning into Kale's back, demanding answers without words. But Kale didn't turn, didn't speak. His claws were still buried in the tree, his muscles coiled like a spring about to snap. The vampire's absence was a wound. The wind shifted, carrying the last traces of her. Frost and something darker, something that made his teeth ache. She had played with him, toyed with him, and yet when she vanished, it hadn't felt like victory. It had felt like theft. Riven's growl cut through the silence. He stepped forward, his massive frame blocking the moonlight. "What are you doing?" The question hung between them, unspoken but deafening. Kale finally turned. His lips peeled back in a silent snarl, his gaze locked onto Riven's. The message was clear. "This doesn't concern you." The pack tensed. The air turned heavy with the promise of violence. Then a sound, soft, mocking, laughter drifting from the trees. Every head snapped toward it. The vampire stood at the edge of the clearing, her silhouette framed by the moon, her silver eyes gleaming with amusement. "So tense," she murmured. "Does it always take this many of you to hunt one little vampire?" Kale moved before the others could react. He crossed the clearing in 3 strides, his body a shadow of fury and hunger. This time, she didn't retreat, didn't vanish. She just watched him come, her chin lifted in defiance, her lips curved in a challenge. When he was close enough to feel the cold radiating from her skin, she reached out, pressing a single finger to his chest, right over his pounding heart. "You're angry," she observed. His growl shook the ground beneath them. She smiled. "Good." Then she stepped back, her form dissolving into mist just as the pack lunged. Claws slashed empty air. Teeth snapped shut on nothing. Kale stood frozen, her touch still burning like a brand over his heart. The forest became a blur of shadows and moonlight as Kale ran. Branches whipped past him, slicing at his fur. But he didn't slow, didn't stop. Her scent was everywhere, cold and sweet, curling around him like a noose, tightening with every step. She was close, teasing him, leading him deeper into the night, where the trees grew twisted and the air hummed with something ancient. Behind him, the pack's howls faded. Even Riven had fallen back, lost in the maze of thorns and mist. This hunt was his alone. Then silence. Kale skidded to a halt, his claws gouging the earth. The clearing ahead was empty. Too empty. The wind had died. The insects had stilled. Even the moon seemed to hold its breath. A whisper of movement behind him. He turned, slow. There she stood, not running, not smiling, just watching him with those endless silver eyes, her pale skin glowing like a specter in the dark. For the first time, there was no mockery in her gaze, just hunger, raw and relentless. "You followed," she said, her voice softer than before, almost pleased. Kale's chest heaved. His muscles trembled with the need to lunge, to claim, to sink his teeth into something and make it his. But he didn't move. Couldn't. Not when she looked at him like that. Like she wanted to devour him just as much as he wanted her. She took a step forward, then another, each movement deliberate, unhurried. The space between them shrank until he could see the faint pulse in her throat, could feel the chill of her breath on his muzzle. "Tell me to leave," she challenged, her fingers brushing the air between them. So close to his fur but not quite touching. "Tell me you don't want this." His growl was his answer. Deep, guttural, a sound that shook the leaves around them. She smiled. Not sharp, not cruel, but something darker, something real. Liar. Then her hand was on him, cold fingers tangling in his fur, dragging him down to her level until their breaths mingled, hot and icy, alive and dead. Cale didn't turn, didn't care. Whatever was coming didn't matter. Only this, only her. She looked back at him, her gaze burning. "Next time," she vowed, low and fierce, "there won't be interruptions." Then she was gone, melting into the shadows like smoke. Cale stood alone, the echo of her touch still searing his skin. The howls grew louder, closer. Riven snarled, bracing for battle. The pack formed ranks, teeth bared. But Cale didn't move. He stared at the empty space where she'd been, his chest heaving, his claws flexing. She had made a promise, and he intended to make her keep it.